Yellow? Oh, wow. Oh, John Cena's wearing his hat again. Natty Professor didn't try to kill him.
Yeah, I don't even know how he got his hat on.
Yeah, well, he probably just started feeling good about himself again. Picked himself up and was just like, you know what? I should throw this hat back on because as an action figure, I look more substantial with this hat. And I don't have to be beaten up by Nsima anymore.
Yeah, he probably has really low self-esteem too, so maybe that's why he always just threw his hat down and was like, nope, I'm going to pick myself up just like this hat.
That's right.
That makes sense. But anywho, everybody, welcome to Saturday School. Class is now in session. Saturday School is a different format from our traditional podcast. This is We the People, our opportunity to ask the people's coach a question in regards to business, life, fitness, whatever it may be. And today, I wanted to get more onto the business side of things and kind of ask you about the finances, financial agreements. This is kind of, I guess, like a two-part question, so that way we can kind of steer it in this direction and then maybe end up somewhere else. But basically, I just wanted to ask, is there a difference, or can you differentiate success and basically becoming rich? You know, can you have one without the other, or do you need one in order to get the other? And then the whole general premise of today's class session, I just want to ask you straight up, how do we become rich? Because as you know, I got a baby on the way. You know,
damn, son.
Just moved, and for the first time in my life, I'm just like, wow, like there's now a squad that's dependent on making sure that I bring home some dough. It's a little bit different. A little bit more pressure. So
the first place I would start with something like this is I would, I would ask you first. I would say, Andrew, do you feel like you have everything that you need?
The answer would be absolutely.
So, end of podcast. You're already rich. Now, I know what you're talking about. I know you're talking about them greenbacks and you're talking about those $100 bills in your back pocket. So I understand where you're coming from. And yes, you have all of your major needs fulfilled and probably then some. You know, a lot of us are fortunate enough to, grow up in the United States and have parents that, or at least a parent, we got somebody that has cared for us, provided shelter and so on. And then we've been able to, later on turn that into, our own version of that, I guess you'd say. But let me kind of start out by saying, like, I guess to explain anything, I have to go over some, like, what I feel is like universal law. These are a lot of things that I've learned and picked up over the years, and I'm like, oh wow, that transfers over into that really well. Oh wow, that transfers over, and that's why you start to hear so many analogies from so many different people. A fisherman is going to use the virtue of patience to explain how you can be successful, right? A power lifter is going to explain how important it is to be strong in life, to be able to weather the storm of life. A MMA fighter or a boxer is going to, maybe talk to you about being tough and being able to overcome and persevere in the face of somebody trying to knock you out, someone trying to beat you up, someone trying to cause physical harm to you. And so I think the reason why all these things are applicable, that's always a tough word for me to say, but I think I nailed it. Mm-hmm. So I won't try to say it again. But I think when we're thinking about things that, apply, I think the reason why those things apply is because of the universal law, which I believe is this, that in order to really obtain success, you have to first be a success. And that might be a tough thing for people to understand. Like, wait, what is that? Is this some sort of weird magical voodoo that Mark's spitting out? Are we talking about the law of attraction again? Like, what are we kind of talking? What does that mean? You got to be successful. You got to be a success before you can be successful. What it means is that if you're not doing stuff, then it's going to be really hard to become anything. it's the doing of stuff, it's the tinkering of things that helps us with error correction and helps us to gain knowledge. We have to kind of like mess up a bunch in life, not drastically, and not we don't necessarily need a ton of hardship to occur in order to be successful. So I don't want to paint that picture because I think that is false information, although we do see that very often. But I think it's because of the lesson that is taught through some of the experiences that people might have that might be kind of painful. Going through a divorce, maybe when you were a young kid, you always acted out and you always got in trouble and you stole stuff and you did all kinds of stuff that now when you look back at it, you're just like, what was I doing? What was I thinking? But maybe you needed to go there in order to kind of learn this other side of things, other end. But ultimately, I'm still of the belief that in order for you to really find success, you need to be a successful person. I also think I would also discourage people to really be, I would also discourage people from being so aggressive with chasing after success. I do think you can poke around it. I do think it's important to read books. I think it's important to take in information and to try to gain more knowledge on how you can make your problems smaller. It should be understood that we're not trying to solve all of our problems. You may be able to solve some of your problems some of the time, but we're really just trying to minimize problems and to gain further strategies on how we can get through this life with being happy. Now, I'll also say that, in my opinion, that all happiness comes from the act of being able to solve a problem. And the only way that you can solve a problem is to have more knowledge as to what the problem is. What is the problem? A problem with problems is that a lot of times our feelings get in the way and we don't really understand what the actual root cause of the problem is. We're thinking like, oh, I'm going to do this to satisfy that need or satisfy that want. And then you end up recognizing in the end that it wasn't really what you thought it was going to be. So I'm going to give you guys some examples right here before I get into kind of talking a little bit more specifically about money, because I know that everybody likes to make that money. Josh Settlage, who works here at Slingshot, a.k.a. Settlegate. Josh Settlage is a person that if you told me that he arrived late for something, I would immediately have to punch you in the face because I would know that that was an absolute lie. I would know that there's no possible way that my boy Settlegate would be late for anything under any circumstances, because he's always prompt, he's always sharp. He is somebody who asks a lot of questions as well, and he's not wasting a lot of time asking crappy questions. He's asking the good questions so that he makes sure that he's being set off in the right direction to satisfy what we need to have done here at Slingshot. Josh always looks good. He's always well dressed. He's always well groomed. He's somebody that does MMA. He has a wrestling background, wrestled a lot in high school. This is a guy that is no stranger to discipline. He understands that one of the major keys to life is to be disciplined. One of the keys to Josh being a more successful person as he gets older, he's like mid-20s, as Josh gets to be 30 and mid-30s, in order for him to acquire more success, he needs successful recipes that are being practiced every single day in his life. Andrew, is Josh Settlage a successful person?
Looking at him, he's one of the more, I don't want to say successful because I think I'd define that differently than you, but he is one of the biggest successes that I know in my life.
Yep. And that brought out, like you said that better than even what I was intending, is that Josh is just starting his career. He's just starting off. So if we were to, look at his tax return and look at the amount of money that he makes or something like that, and we were only to look at that, there's thousands upon thousands of guesses at jobs that we would have that would be able to fulfill the amount of money that somebody like Josh would be making, right? And I mean, you could guess all different kinds of jobs, but the jobs wouldn't be like a lawyer, doctor. You wouldn't think that he has the same lifestyle of like a Jay-Z or a Gary Vee or anything like you wouldn't be, having these off the wall guesses of, oh, he's a recording artist, he's right. But he's just starting out his career, and he's smart enough to understand one of the most valuable things that I think that you could ever know in life is just to understand there are steps to all this stuff. And the different levels that you may get to, you've heard people say there's levels to this shit, right? There are levels to this shit, and you're not going to be able to get into a warp zone and skip a few levels in this world unless you have figured out a way to have paid some of those debts and paid some of the price to be in the position to end up being able to fast forward your life. I mean, some people move a lot faster, right? I'm going to use, I'll get back to Settlegate in a second. We're going to switch over and talk a little bit about John Cena. John Cena accelerated fast in wrestling. I accelerated fast in wrestling for 2-3 years, and then it was like a major drop off point. If I had kind of a curve like we're seeing with this virus, that's what it would look like. It would have went up like, oh, Mark's got great potential. He's doing really well. Oh, he's got the physique. He's pretty good on the mic. He's got some of these things down, right? But then it would have had a drop off point because the WWE was never really all that interested. I wasn't interested enough. I didn't know that at the time. I kind of thought I was all in, but now that I look back, I can understand that I just wasn't. And here you have John Cena coming through, who's, 250 pounds, 5% body fat, and he has all the attributes that they're looking for in order for him to be successful. He was already a success. Now, with his wages that he earned from Gold's Gym Venice and from working at some local supplement companies or supplement stores, and from him living off expired protein from Gold's Gym that they couldn't sell because of the expiration date was on there. You wouldn't, and seeing where John lived, he lived in Venice, California, which is a beautiful area. Anywhere in California, any of the beach cities are beautiful, but he lived in a little tiny apartment there, and he scraped by. So you wouldn't have viewed him as being a successful person, but he was a huge success in the sense that he already had all the bases. He already had all the habits. He already had all the things down. So getting back to Josh Settlage, it would be of absolutely no surprise to me if 6-7 years from now, my wife and I are talking and we're having a conversation and we're like, hey, remember that kid? Remember Josh that worked for us? I shouldn't say kid. That makes me sound old and makes him sound like a baby. But remember that kid Josh that was working for us? I hope Josh works for us forever, but I'm also just understanding the reality of all this, right? Remember that kid Josh, that worked for us? He started his own business and he's doing A, B, and C. And actually, he's really killing it. And he lives in, he just bought a house, and he's, there's all these things where it's just like layered with, tons of praise and success towards what he might be doing with his career. I would be like, yep. Like it would be of no surprise to me. And a lot of the people that work here, Andrew, with yourself, Jessica Smith, Smokey. Again, I hope everybody works here forever because I love having everybody here. But we don't know, what paths Slingshot will go down. We don't know what paths you guys will go down. But you guys are already doing, I can't even really, if you were doing things that went against you being successful, I would have talked to you about it. I would have, and maybe these are things I may have pointed out early, and I might have said, oh, well, I think maybe you could be more efficient with this. And I don't even know all the stuff that you guys do, so I wouldn't even necessarily be able to help with everything. But we've talked about these things before. Maybe you need a second computer. We've brought in, Ryan, and we brought in other people to communicate and say, oh, well, how can we make some of these things more successful than they already are? Like, things are awesome. And that's stuff that we talk about here all the time, is how do we highlight this? How do we make this an even bigger success than it already might be? So for me, that's what I'm recognizing is that, and for myself too, like growing up and, playing high school football and being on the track team and, having some of these things that they helped me get disciplined. But I also had other things in my life that helped me be disciplined, such as just my upbringing in general. I wasn't always like this, I was a kid, like I played the role of a kid, for many years. I wasn't always like meticulous about everything. So I don't want to paint that picture, because that's definitely not true. I played a lot of video games. I did a lot of kid-like stuff, but also, when I was hungry for something and when I wanted to do something, I did it. I remember waking up early and going for a run before school. And I remember sometimes lifting before school. School started at like 8. I would wake up at like 5:30. I'd get a workout in. I didn't do it every time. I didn't do it every day. I didn't do it for years on end. But I did it, and I did it quite a bit. And then as I got into junior college, I did the same thing. I'd work out at like 5. I'd show up at the gym at 5 a.m. every morning. And now I think people that I've actually been in contact with my friend Frankie Kazarian more recently. He's a professional wrestler. He's been wrestling he's been wrestling since I started wrestling in 2000. He's been wrestling for, 20 years basically. And getting in contact with him more recently, he was like, hey man, we've all seen what you've been doing and fucking congratulations. Like, but it's of no surprise to him. It's of no surprise to me that he's still wrestling and still getting paid for it, because that guy was a savage. Samoa Joe is another guy. Like, I knew that these guys, I knew that Cena was going to be a huge star. It's not because I have any sort of eye for that. Like, you would just meeting John Cena and being around him for even just a few minutes, even if he wasn't the John Cena as we know him now, if you knew him the way I knew him before he had the fame, the stardom, the money, you'd be like, this dude is different. There's something different going on. I don't know what it is. He's wired a little different. This is the guy who's going to show up every day, kind of the lunch pail mentality, where he's just going to get his work done every single day, and he doesn't care how long any of it takes. He doesn't care the difficulty levels of any of it. He's going to learn it, he's going to know it, and he's going to try to become the best he can at it. And it's not going to surprise me at all when I hear that this guy's a movie star, or this guy's a this, or this guy's a that. And so when I think about success, that's what I think about is you have to have had a history of showing that you know how to be successful. If you have a question, we can pop it in here. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about loot.
Just real quick, back to the Settlegate, Josh Settlage. I mean, before him, we didn't have a, oh wow, that just escaped my mind. But the position where you work for free just for experience.
Intern. We
didn't have any type of internship whatsoever. Josh approached Mark and was like, hey, I'd love to intern for you. And Mark's like, well, we don't really do that here. And he's like, I'll do whatever you want. So it's like, sick. Okay, sure. Come in. We'll figure out something for you. And he did everything from taking out the trash, sweeping, mopping, cleaning up the gym, helping me out with whatever I needed. And the next thing you know, he's got his own freaking office in the building. And I remember talking to him being like, hey, did you ever think that you would go from being an intern into having your own office? And he's like, you know what? He's like, I don't know. I didn't think about that. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's amazing. So what did I have? There's a handful of people that might be hearing about becoming a success And the two examples that we gave, Josh and freaking John Cena, they probably don't see themselves as either one of those. They might even come from a family of what you would say, quote, like losers, right? Like they have like that, kind of, I don't want to be mean, but like that loser mentality where they're kind of always upset at somebody else. They're the victim. They're it's not their fault that they, have to get the store brand versus like the name brand stuff. So is it possible for somebody to be in that situation and break away from it and become a success, even though nobody in their lineage has ever had that?
Yeah, I believe it's important that you have to figure out a way to believe in yourself. Success is not something that is in short. It's not something that is like quantifiable. It's not something that is. There's no shortage of success. Like there's as much success out there as you want. So, as I've said before, like I've never met a person that can't learn. I never met a person that can't get stronger. I've never met a person that can't lose weight. I would say that I've never met a person that can't be more successful than they are right now. Now, could somebody be like rich and famous? Like there's not everyone can be rich and famous. Not everyone was born to be a leader. But I also would say that leaders aren't necessarily born. Leaders, just strong-willed people, I think they're cultivated over a long period of time. I do think that sometimes people are born with a predisposition to kind of be a certain way. And some of that we could argue whether it's learned in the household or whether it's something that you were literally born with. I don't know at the moment if we currently have enough information on how the body and mind works, but we do understand that you kind of absorb every single thing that you see and absorb every single thing that you hear. And I think that if you're in a defeated family, you're in a family that your dad is an electrician or something like that, and you just don't think that you could ever have a job that maybe, like being an electrician by no means means you're a loser, but it does mean that you have a more typical job in terms of society. Like if someone said, "Hey, what do you do?" If you said, "I'm an electrician," it might be the end of the conversation. Like it might not go a whole lot further. Rather than if you said, you're an inventor and you freaking created some sort of weird thing that helps people with, or just that you created something that creates better sound waves through some of these small devices that we see in people's homes or something. That would strike up. You'd be like, oh, okay, well, what do you mean? Like an Alexa? Like, does it work for that? And you'd be like, yeah, I helped change some of the. And then you'd be like, holy shit! That's not really about money. It's about having this idea that you can go out and do something else. So I think maybe the son of a plumber or maybe the son of an electrician might think like, I'm going to, work for the state. I'm going to be a garbage man. I'm going to be fill in the blank with, a job that is normal. And I don't think that these normal, I don't think there's anything wrong with any of these normal jobs, but I'm pointing out the fact that in society, I don't think that a lot of people view that as being successful. So if you were someone that's stuck, in a family where they say, they kind of teach you like, this isn't for us. We're not like them. We're not like that family over there. Oh yeah, they live on the other side of the tracks over there, and like it's inherited money, it's inherited wealth, and like they just have it easier, and they'll always have it easier, and we'll never be able to find a way to have it any easier. I just think that you would have to figure out a way to work your way out of that mindset. And as I was saying, with strength and with knowledge, everyone has the ability to be more knowledgeable. Everyone has the ability to be a little stronger. Everyone has the ability to be successful. Whether it's successful or not to all of society, that would be that would be a huge question mark because morality flows through that as well. So somebody makes a lot of money or somebody does this. Now it depends on how they made their money. Now it depends on their character a lot. Like, how do they act? How does this person? We know a lot of really wealthy people that we see on the news and we see in magazines and stuff like that, where we're like, I wouldn't want to be like that person. They kind of seem like a nasty person. I don't know if I like that. And you wouldn't want to, go down that road. But I think when it comes to financial gain, I think the important thing to start to look at is because I would say that financial gain is something that you want to work at it for a while, right? So if you're going to work at something for a while, it would be great if you were interested in it because it would help you to stick with it for longer. Maybe you're not really driven by money, let's say. But maybe you're really just intrigued by numbers, by math. Maybe you are interested in, maybe you just have always liked math. Maybe you've always been good at math. So you have a little bit of an interest there. Well, maybe you can, do the stock market or, maybe you can buy some stocks or maybe you can figure out something there. The point is that you want to try to interlink the things that you're interested in, the things that you're good at, along with something that you can make money at. And to me, that's where you start to interlink success in the most spots possible. And I like to use my family members as examples quite often because I just think it's relatable. A lot of my family members are teachers, but a lot of my family members also have kids. A lot of my family members remember what it was like to be in school, and they remember what it's like to have a good teacher. They remember what it's like to have a bad teacher. And it's important to them that they do the best job that they can in that teaching position so that they're kind of viewed as the good teacher. They are somebody that can potentially mentor kids. My uncle, he is a basketball coach. He's been a basketball coach for many, many years. He was also a teacher. My Uncle John is the same way. He's a football coach and a teacher. And these people don't do these jobs for, they don't do these jobs just for money. It is, we want to have a career. We want to make sure that we have, insurance and all these different things that we need to kind of, navigate life and to make sure our family is secure. They want all these things, but they also, they do these things for reasons that go beyond just being a teacher, reasons that go beyond just being a coach. They want to be able to help mentor people, help people to become more successful. When it comes to actual money, I think one of the most important things is that you're interested in whatever it is that you're doing, to be able to stay with it for long enough so that you can continue to make more money. Now, I would also say that if you have a good business mind, that it's also possible that you're not even that interested in something and you make a killing in it. But it would also mean that you are a material expert when it comes to business, or at least when it comes to making money. And so that is another thing that I think is really important, is buckling down and understanding that you're going to have great knowledge about something. If you want to be successful in terms of making money, then you're going to have to know a lot about at least one thing. And what that thing is it's kind of up to you. And sometimes people fall into these things, really backwards. Like, I don't know, did Jeff Bezos know that he was going to be selling, pogo sticks and ping pong tables and video games and DVDs and have Amazon movie and have Amazon supporting, the NFL and some of these, did he know that he was going to buy Whole Foods and he just was trying to sell some books, And I think he did have a business mind because he realized there's no commodity on this planet that has that's wanted more so than books. Not only is the demand there, but the supply is crazy. Like there's millions and millions of books. And so he knew that was going to be something that would be successful, but he took kind of a hunch and he jumped on it and he moved forward with it. And then he was able to turn it into something much bigger. But I would imagine at the root of everything was his fascination with sharing knowledge with people. Like, how do I, even though the books are for sale and stuff like that, he obviously wants to make money. And I know that people have different feelings about Jeff Bezos one way or the other, but that's irrelevant to my point here. My point is that he probably was just super passionate about books. And he was like, people need a better way to get books. Like, why can't they get you should be able to get whatever the hell book you want. And he was able to create that and then turn that into a company that now sells everything, food, diapers. I mean, you name it. They almost every single thing that you can think of that you could utilize is something that's on Amazon.
Yeah. And so then I know initially you didn't really care about making a lot of money. I think you probably just wanted to make enough just to be able to go lift. But like still to this day, do you still have that same mentality, or do you look at the whole like grand scheme of things and think like, okay, maybe if I did invest in this company, it can give me an opportunity to do more of this, whatever this is something that you actually are interested in?
Yeah, I've always been a dreamer. So like I want to make as much money as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to make as much money as I possibly can at the expense of my own health and my own life. And so I'm going to do the best I can each day and have a good checks and balances and make sure that, I'm still paying attention to my kids and paying attention to my wife. I mean, those are the things that make me the happiest. So I got to make sure that those things are intact, and making money doesn't necessarily make me happy, but it's expanding and growing is important. Like I just think, for me anyway, standing still would be no different than suicide. Like I don't want to have the same knowledge I did yesterday. I want to try to grow every single day, learn, laugh. Every day of my life, I want to be able to kind of have said that, and so it's important, as much as people want to say, oh, the money doesn't matter too much, or I've said it before, like I don't really care that much about money. However, it's fun. It's fun to make it. It's fun to grow. It's fun to grow a company, and how much more fun would it be to grow a second company, or to have a second idea or second concept, and to be able to develop stuff around that? What if I was able to employ, 5,000 people? I would love that. That would be awesome. Mm-hmm. It would change a lot of the dynamics of especially for this company, it's not necessary. But shit, if I could have something that could do that, like that'd be sick. That'd be cool. As long as everyone had like a point, and as long as everyone, needed something to do every day. I think that would be great. The goal is always to grow. It's not necessarily like in search of stuff that I currently don't have. But I'll say, I guess I'll put it to you this way. So, somebody might think, oh, well, having one house, how could you ever care or want anything else? Because you can only live in one house at a time. I've heard people say this before. That's true. You can only live in one house at a time. But how good does it feel in life to make somebody else feel good, or to help somebody else feel better or feel good about their situation, or to be able to assist somebody, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, how good would it feel right now to be able to buy your parents a house, So I've been able to do that. I've been able to buy my brother a car. I've been able to buy a beach house, which many of the people that work here have had a chance to experience staying at that beach house. And I love that. To me, like, that's buying my parents' house and buying that beach house is like one of the greatest, I guess you'd say, like, accomplishments or greatest things that I've ever been a part of, because it makes people feel really good. Having my parents, they don't live right next door to us anymore, but they still live just a few minutes down the road. And having my parents close to me, like, that was so big for our kids. That was so big for the growth and expansion of my relationship with my wife. Having kids and having grandparents right next door. I know some people have different feelings about that, but I felt great about it. It worked out really well for us. And it worked out great for my kids, the relationship that they built. But the experiences from that beach house and the memories that are created for kids in my family and kids in even some other people's families that have been there it's overwhelming to think about. To think like, they might not even remember whose house they came to. They're going to be like, I remember went to some guy's house and he had a pretty sick house that was on the beach, and it was really fun, and we went boogie boarding. Like, what was, they're probably going to ask their dad or ask their mom about it at some point, and man, that's an awesome feeling. Like, who doesn't want that? So my eye is always on growing, expanding, investing, because you would want your money to make money for you. So there's a bunch of moves and a bunch of things in the future that we'll do that will serve us best coming up. But, lastly, I'll kind of just say, and if you have a question, I can answer it. But lastly, I'll just kind of say that, I went to a seminar that Mikhail Kokylev did, a 8-time Russian national champion weightlifter, an amazing power lifter. I think he's the first Russian to deadlift over 900 pounds. I think he also did World's Strongest Man. I mean, this is the most accomplished person in the history of strength training, pretty much. He's unbelievable. His versatility is second to none. There's not another person in the world that can make these claims to be that strong in all those disciplines. It's completely unbelievable. But a seminar that was run by Jesse Burdick had Mikhail Kokylev there, and Mikhail Kokylev took the Olympic rings, or not Olympic rings, the rings that you use for gymnastics. This was in a CrossFit gym. And he said deadlifts are like trying to get Pretty Woman. And he grabbed this, sorry for my bad version of a bad Russian American accent. But he said, deadlifts are like woman. He's like, try to pull them close to you. And he pulled the ring close to him. And he's like, and they go away. And he opened up his hand and he let the ring go, and it moved away from him. And he said, but push them away and they come right back to you. And the thing swung right back to him. And I think success is the same thing. It's not something that you pursue. It's something that you attract. So I think that's the main thing, is like, yes, you can, get some books and you can listen to some stuff, but I think that if you're trying to chase down success all the time, I think you're missing the fact that you could be attracting success by being an attractive person. And I'm not talking about your looks, but I'm talking about the disciplines that you harbor every single day, the things that you do every single day. Are you talking yourself out of stuff all the time that you know that you want to do that are going to move you closer to your goals? Or are you going the opposite way? For me, something that's been really helpful to me is to, every time I feel that, every time I'm like, I don't really feel like doing that, I try my best just to go and do it. I don't always end up doing it. I end up folding just like the rest of you. I end up quitting. I end up giving up on myself every once in a while, just like everybody else. But I've learned that when you get that little voice, when you're like, oh, you should do a 10-minute walk. And then that other voice comes in and like, no, dude, like you had a long day. Why would you do a 10-minute? Kidding me? It's 1,000,000 degrees outside. Why would you go and do a 10-minute walk? Before all that stuff enters in, just boom, already be on the act of like going and doing whatever it is that you were going to do. And you have to do the same thing sometimes in avoiding stuff. When you're like, oh, I know there's a couple leftover slices of pizza in the fridge from what my kids ordered the other day. Is it really going to make that big of a difference? So I just ate yes, it's going to make a big difference because you're going to know and you're going to be going against the grain of what it is that you're trying to do. Those slices of pizza, those things that are tempting, those things will have their day because you're not going to live the rest of your life without those things forever. It's just for the moment, you have a particular goal, lean into that. When that goal is over, you can reassess. And at that time, you can say, okay, I'm going to intentionally be a little undisciplined for like a couple of days. I just want to chill the fuck out and go ahead and enjoy yourself for a little bit. You're allowed to do things like that as you see fit for yourself, but proceed with caution because sometimes that can be a slippery slope and sometimes that can lead you to be, remember I've shared before, like being off track, like just have your track, have other options to go left or right. You know, like what you don't have to view it as a negative. I'm off track. You know, if you're really regimented on a particular diet and then all of a sudden your diet is freed up a little bit and you have ice cream every night, let's just say for a month, say your ice cream every day for a month. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're off track. It means that I'd rather look at it this way. It means that you were smart enough to recognize, oh, I could use a little ice cream in my life for a little while. And you just made the decision to implement having ice cream every day for a month. And it shouldn't hurt you if your other disciplines are still intact. So that's my kind of weird way of looking at some of those things. Hopefully you guys find that to be helpful.
I know I did. And I did have some follow-up questions, but they look like crap in comparison to what you just said, because that was incredible. I guess the one follow-up question that I do have now is if somebody is, okay, all right, Mark, I'm not going to chase it anymore. I'm not going to, keep trying to get the pretty girl. I'm going to just try to attract success. But they start feeling like, dude, success must think that I'm one ugly SOB because I have been doing everything in my power. I've been grinding. I've been trying to get this damn idea off the ground, this whatever it may be, and success just can't find me. What advice do you have somebody that feels like they've been just grinding away and they still feel like they're at like step one?
Yeah, that can be a hard place to be because you just have to simply be good enough, when you're like, oh man, the coach, man, he doesn't see me, like coach knows I can drain threes way better than everybody else on the team, but he's playing that guy because that guy's friends with his son and like all that kind of stuff like that. It's not productive. So my only suggestion there is like, just shut up, shut up and keep getting better. Like stop, what does Cam Hanes say? Keep hammering, right? Like, I think he might even say, shut up and keep hammering. But like, you have to just figure out a way to continue to work hard and continue to. It's not even hard work is the wrong word there. You have to just figure out a way to continue to work because all work is going to have difficulty. That's kind of what the word implies. Otherwise, the word would be something completely different. It would be easy or something, right? Work is going to require activity. It's going to require some sort of lifting of some sort of movement of some kind. And, sitting still is not going to, sitting still and complaining that you're not being seen. Those things are all going to be like, I know this kind of stuff because I feel like, I don't feel like I ever did this in a flashy way. I don't feel like, sometimes some of the podcasts that I do, by the way, if anybody wants to contact me for a podcast, you can hit me up. Trying to figure out how to get in contact with me might be a little difficult, but if you do get in contact with me, if you break through, and I guess you could hit up Steven at markbellslingshot.com. If you want to have me on your podcast, I'll be in your podcast because I feel like I have a lot of family members. I have a lot of support, so I don't want to say that I feel like no one ever gave me a shot. That's a wrong terminology. But I wish more people gave me an opportunity when I was young, because it is hard. You are working hard and you're like, motherfucker, like I'm a hardworking person. I try to do everything the right way, and I see this guy getting ahead, and I see that girl getting ahead, and it can be very frustrating. And sometimes you just need somebody to cast that life preserver out to you. You know, sometimes you need that little support, that little lifeline for somebody just to kind of give you a little glimmer of hope. And that can be the one thing that kind of leads you into, your life can be altered from that. So I don't mind doing that whenever I can, whatever opportunity I can. But I do think that's a tough spot to be in, where you feel like you're really dishing it out with everything that you got. But I would say, you're going to have to be patient with it. I've shared this many times. To be good at something takes a lot, but to be great at something, it'll take everything that you have. You got to freaking put it all on the table. If you're trying to be great at something, it depends on what you're trying to do. It will feel difficult every step of the way because you're not prepared for it yet. So that's the other thing I would say is you got to hang in there. You got to be patient. It's going to take time. And I feel like I've taken my time. I feel like this has been a long road. I do have like a lot of followers. I do have some popularity. Things have worked out well for me, but I've mentioned this many times before. There's never been like a big spike. There's never been like a big pew, and then everything just kind of takes off into the stratosphere, which we see that happen quite a bit in today's age with, things going viral and just social media in general. I've had a little bit of stuff pick up some traction, but it's been a snail's pace every single day, or at least that's the way it feels. Maybe to you guys watching, maybe you have a different view or different interpretation of how it looks to you. But man, for me, it's been really, really slow. Been very slow. So just, you gotta, it's almost like, doing a max lift. Okay. You need to have more capacity to do a max lift than the actual lift that you did. In order to bench press 600 pounds, you have to probably be able to bench press like 615, 620 almost, or maybe just even slightly above anything above 600 pounds would probably be sufficient enough to get you that 600 pounds. But my point is that anything less than that can get you hurt. You can be catastrophic, right? You can have your pec ripped off or something like that. So I think when it comes to like the thing that you're striving for, you have to surpass the knowledge base of which you might think, oh, I'm already there. Like I know as much as him. I know as much as that guy. Like I'm already here. And it's like, nope, you're not. Because the second that you get put in front of a room and somebody says, hey, you're doing a seminar on this thing that you've been talking about how great you are at, this thing that you've been talking about how great you are with, go ahead. Here's a 2-hour seminar. And the second that you start talking, you're like, I do not know what I'm talking about at all. And you run out of things to say really quick because you need to know the material beyond anything that you could possibly imagine. But when you're young, you kind of think you're already there. So you got to hang in there. You got to stay with it. It's not about doing the right thing for just a couple days in a row. And it's not about doing the right thing for a couple of years or a couple of, or however long it is. Doing the right thing, it will continue to be the right thing. So don't be distracted and don't be thrown off course and don't try to cut corners because it's easy. It's enticing to cut a corner. It's enticing. I have an invention right now that I could cut a big corner with and I could pass it off on to somebody else. But in my history and what I've been teaching you guys, that doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is for me to grab a hold of the thing and lug it down the street myself. Not literally, because I have a lot of people that will help me, right? That is going to end up leading to the greatest amount of success, the greatest amount of reward, is to just kind of bootstrap it and do it the same way that I've done everything else.
Incredible, Mark. That was dope. real quick with the class, we'll share our notes really, really fast. But as I read off my notes that I felt these were some standout pieces in today's class, please write your notes down in the YouTube and Facebook description or comment section, I should say, because it'd be cool to see what you guys what you took away from it, and then maybe that'll help other people out as far as like kind of just learning more about what we talked about today. And then also you can even drop a time code on there so people can jump right to it. But for me, right off the bat, being a success is how you can obtain success. I think that was gigantic. I never heard you say that. I never heard anybody else say that, and that makes a ton of sense to me. Happiness comes from problem solving. Problem solving comes from educating yourself. It's kind of like the blueprint for life, blueprint to happiness right there.
Yeah, I just want to kind of add to that. Remember what I said is like, you need to be a material expert at something. So I don't care if you hate school the way that I did, or if you don't like, certain types of education. You have to be informed on something. You have to have knowledge base on something, because otherwise, what is it that you have that people want? Whether it's a lot of knowledge about fashion, or it's a lot of knowledge about making shoes, or it's a lot of knowledge about teaching kids how to play basketball, whatever it is, you need to know a crazy amount of it in order to be able to ever sell that off as anything.
Yep. Yeah, that was actually one of my notes there. So that's cool that we both were thinking the same thing. Understand that there's levels to this shit. I thought that was funny because it's true. Believe in yourself. Mark knows that everybody has the ability to get better at pretty much anything. I mean, you might not turn into The Rock tomorrow, but maybe you could get jacked and start a huge social media following and find success that way. I thought it was amazing that Mark's kind of his biggest W's that he's put up on the scoreboard are buying his beach house and his parents a house. I actually was given the opportunity to hang out at the beach house, and that's when I proposed to my now wife, who's now pregnant with my kid. Yeah. And then the absolute biggest takeaway for me is you don't attract success, you don't chase success, you attract it. And when you went on that rant right there, there's a good chance that people are listening to this podcast because I put that post on social media.
Sick.
Because that was incredible. So those are my notes. Please let us know what you guys wrote down in the comments, and let's share some notes.
Andrew said, believe in yourself, and obviously you hear that all the time, but just remember, what are our beliefs? Where do they come from? They are formulated, right? They're formulated through previous history, previous experiences, but I also want you to understand that they're made up. So if you don't believe in yourself right now while you're listening to this, I want you to, in the next moment, I want you to start to believe in yourself, because it's something that you start to make up in your mind. Now, I will also say that you can't lie to yourself either, because that's not going to work. That's not going to work so great. So you telling yourself that you're great or something like that, that's probably not going to be super effective. But you starting to believe in yourself that you can do things, that if you just try for long enough, if you just do it for long enough, that you will get better at it. Like you might currently suck at exercise. You might be fat. You might be just quote unquote behind some of what you see in our culture today. And you might feel like shit about it. But you have to just believe in yourself enough. You just say this to yourself. Say, I know that I can do a little bit better than this. I can be a little bit better than I was yesterday. It may not work out that way every single day over a period of time. When you see people at Christmas this year, hopefully we're allowed to do that. When you see people at Christmas this year, they're going to say, dude, something's different about you. And say, yeah, lost 15 pounds. I feel great. Or whatever that thing might be. But you can make these changes. They're not easy. They're not free. They're expensive. They take time. I don't mean expensive by money. I mean expensive they just cost you a lot. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of time. But I can just tell you that it's 100% worth it. So if you have a disbelief in yourself right now, you need to turn that into a belief. You need to start believing that you can do it, You need to actually go out there and do it because you can't lie to yourself about that.
Boom.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.